U.S. In a calm as usual city, a certain hotel is undergoing a thrilling action. Zhou Xiaoshan and Molly's siblings cooperated tacitly and successfully obtained the target USB flash drive, and Chu Jianing, who was almost hit by Zhou Xiaoshan, an episode. This task was not assigned by Uncle Cha. The reason why Zhou Xiaoshan desperately got the information was because they were doing business in the name of charity to sell people, and they had to be exposed. Chu Jianing aggressively took her paper and came to the laboratory to meet Professor Harry. Her paper was published but was signed by Professor Harry's name. Besides, this is only a first draft, and it will only be laughed at when it is sent out. Professor Harry said that this was the rule all along. He could see that Chu Jianing was unconvinced, but without him, a person with black hair and yellow skin would not be able to publish a paper in an authoritative organization like Healing. Chu Jianing was irritated, sarcastically, that he could only plagiarize and stabilize her position, and she could not accept Professor Harry's words that discriminated against the Chinese. Chu Jianing asked the professor to apologize to her, but Professor Harry disagreed and even threatened her with her visa. Chu Jianing turned around and left. She wouldn't work with such a person. Domestic, Source Planning Laboratory. Susie and Sun Lei learned that the company had recruited 2 newcomers from overseas, and they were about to take up their jobs. One of them was Chu Jianing. After landing, Zhu Zilai, the administrator of the Yuan Project Laboratory, picked her up. Zhu brought Chu Jianing to the Yuan Project Lab. She was assigned to the Susie group. As soon as Chu Jianing came up, she asked when she could work. Colleagues were very curious about Chu Jianing, who was a bit cold and mysterious. Zhu also told Wei Wei that her salary was higher than her and asked her to have a snack. Susie asked Wei Wei to take Chu Jianing to find out about the dormitory, but Wei Wei was a little reluctant. At the same time, Zhou Xiaoshan also received a phone call from Zhu. The other person that Yuan planned to enroll was him, but he is still abroad. Zhu looked at the photo on Zhou Xiaoshan's resume and became idiot. Finally, a handsome guy came, and she was motivated to work. Wei Wei took Chu Jianing to the staff dormitory, and all the dormitories provided by foreigners to non-local employees are top-notch. Susie intends to give Chu Jianing a little bit of the experiment on Wei Wei's hand. Wei Wei is obviously unwilling, and Susie said she has her own plans. Zhou Xiaoshan learned all the materials in the Yuan Project Laboratory with a super unforgettable memory. Chu Jianing learned that the Source Project can bring Chinese scientific research on the world stage, and since it is a Chinese experiment, it must first benefit the Chinese. Chu Jianing asked Wei Wei for information, but Wei Wei ignored it. In the pantry, Li Chunran answered Chu Jianing's doubts very kindly. Chu Jianing realized that he might have done something wrong. Li Chunran said that she was like this. After all, Wei Wei is the confidant of Su Qian's group, and Chu Jianing's arrival will definitely affect her. Shipping costs abroad and express delivery is very slow, but Chu Jianing, who has just returned home, is obviously not very comfortable with the convenience of the motherland. Sister Chu Jiasin asked Chu Jianing to help translate a document. Chu Jianing noticed that this was an application for film and television school and made a special call. Chu Jiasin said that her friend asked her to ask. Zhou Xiaoshan returned to China and took the same bus with Chu Jianing. When she discovered that the journal Zhou Shan was holding was the cover of Professor Harry, Chu Jianing inevitably thought of his words. Zhou Xiaoshan formally entered the job and was assigned to the Sun Lei group. Zhou Xiaoshan's undergraduate and doctoral degrees are outstanding. Sun Lei asked Zhou Xiaoshan what he thought of Professor Harry's newly published paper. As soon as Zhou Xiaoshan was about to answer, Su Qian brought Chu Jianing to see Sun Lei. Zhou Xiaoshan thinks that Professor Harry's point of view is unique, but there are still some flaws. Chu Jianing agreed and pointed out the details, but was taken away by Susie before finishing speaking. Zhou Xiaoshan's remarks also impressed her deeply. Chu Jianing thinks that Wei Wei is hostile to her. She came here for work and not to intrigue, but Su Qian told her that the adult world should learn to deal with interpersonal relationships, not to mention that Chu Jianing did not have the right to speak on such occasions. "Why do you want to publish?" as she said. Chu Jianing was stubborn, and Su Qian was speechless for a while. It may be that Chu Jianing didn't understand the domestic society for more than 10 years. Su Qian told her to talk less and do more and let her go out. Chu Jiasin bought milk tea for the patient Uncle Zhang, which caused Uncle Zhang's condition to worsen. It was her teacher Chinbin who discovered the problem in time and rescued Uncle Zhang. However, Chu Jiasin was scolded by Chinbin pointing her head, making her angry. I don't want a bachelor's degree anymore. Chu Jianing was not accustomed to domestic payment methods, and Zhou Xiaoshan paid for her. Chu Jiasin ate and cried aggrievedly because of being scolded by Chinbin. Zhou Xiaoshan's adaptability is obviously better than Chu Jianing. Speaking of the incident in the morning, Zhou Xiaoshan said that he still has one of the biggest doubts. This paper is not valid at all. Chu Jianing froze for a moment. His cognition is the same as hers. Formally met. Zhou Xiaoshan is a PhD from Keaton University, and Chu Jianing is a PhD from Lederer University. After graduation, he was engaged in research in Harry's laboratory. Zhou Xiaoshan didn't understand why the experimental conditions there were so good, why he wanted to return to China. Chu Jianing did not answer. The two have just arrived and can only do some work in the group that can be done by middle school students. When Wei Wei noticed that the two were together talking and laughing, she quickly ran to file a complaint. Susie felt that she should call Chu Jianing better. Uncle Zhang told Chinbin that Chu Jiasin didn't give him anything he shouldn't eat. Yesterday he wanted to drink milk tea because he had diabetes and couldn't drink it. Chu Jiasin gave him a cup of oatmeal paste, and Chinbin realized that he had blamed Chu Jiasin. Su Chen reminded Chu Jianing and Zhou Xiaoshan to keep a certain distance, they belonged to different groups. Chu Jianing did not understand why this was, saying that Susie had no right to interfere in her private life. The reason why Susie had this concern was because she had suffered a loss before, and she really did not have the right to interfere in Chu Jianing's private life. She could only say what she should say. Zhou Xiaoshan found that he could not view the high-level authority information and only the group leader could access it. Li Chunran mentioned that Susie's authority might need to be increased.